This video is sponsored by my OnlyFans, where I do my meaningful sex educational content, fitness, health, nutrition, relationship advice, and more. And hi guys, and welcome to the Empress Show with me, Gary, and my awesome guest tonight, once again, is Chicago Reacts. From the channel Chicago Reacts, Kit. Hi to you, Kit.
It's good to be back, and it's great to be back on your show. There's a lot to talk about, and as always, shout out to my fellow Warhammer 40K fans. I think now's a good time to be a Warhammer fan. There's so much happening. Who would ever think that this injection of lore and new material would spruce up all these conversations? And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot to talk about, like we did the last time on your show.
Oh yes, and this is a very maybe it's a controversial topic to some people because, as I always find out, people actually don't have very good concept of good and evil to begin with, which
Hmm.
surprises me. It's kind of sad, actually. And on yesterday's stream, in which the topic was basically, what is are there any good guys in the Imperium? And the conclusion at the end was that yes, there are good guys in the terms, in the ways that the forces of the Imperium, like some of the Primarchs, some of the Astartes, have real virtues. And although they do use that sometimes, in not very good way, because they have to make decisions based on the war situations that they're in, that doesn't matter that they themselves are not going to do the good thing, when it comes to that. Like, for example, in the latest book with the lion, there's one particular Astarte that's really good, and he is protecting the people, like the regular folk, basically, because he is a good guy in heart. So I cannot say in any objective way that there are not good guys. It's just that good guys are serving the Imperium, and that also, includes some decisions that are not that good. But nobody is like fully good. Nobody is someone that never makes any mistakes in general.
Hmm.
But to say that everyone are evil, like, you know, is the current understanding of 40K is also not correct, I think.
So, looking at the Warhammer universe, let's address the fact that it is the remnants of what was once I guess, the equivalent of a Federation empire, because there was a empire before the Imperium, before their fall. There was, I guess, this advanced, scientifically run, minded Federation type empire, and the Imperium is the shadow of what humanity used to be. And in many ways, the Imperium, it is what it is due to the environment that it was created in. Humanity was being enslaved, or they were at the mercy of demons, xenos, or other terrible terrors that almost drove us to extinction. Calling the Imperium evil, that is a childish notion. What it is humanity on the edge of survival, doing everything it can as a species to survive. Now, the Emperor, he isn't perfect. He never was. But as somebody who is this Highlander type being, and I like to think that he's been around for a long time and not some weapon, but just that, an immortal being that's been following humanity throughout the years, centuries. Um, he had to do everything in his power to try and, I guess, help us to survive. Now, again, whatever his end goals are, whether they're good or evil, it is yet to be seen. But the Imperium, like any institution, has good people, mediocre people, evil people, and there are many shades of gray. It is not fair to say that the Imperium are the bad guys, because each world is different and each individual is different, and the leaders in charge. I think we've seen a lot of great leaders in the Imperium and a lot of terrible leaders in the Imperium, including the Primarchs themselves. Um, I think when we look at evil, we have to understand, well, what is being done that would make our skin crawl? Like, what is being done? Because on a couple imperial worlds, we do see slavery and feudalism, but on other worlds, we see meritocracy and dedication and institutions that do, and a controversial statement, do work, at least for the humans that are living on said worlds. Um, Warhammer 40K has made it very clear that this is the most brutal time to be alive. Why is it brutal? Well, there's orcs, Tyranids, Necrons, demons from the warp, and other terrors that are fighting against humanity. I would not expect anyone to be a saint in an environment where there's constant wars. And you mentioned the Primarchs too. The Primarchs are human. They're demigods, but even in Dark Imperium, Gilliman, I think in the first book, says, "I made a mistake dismantling the 500 worlds." He made a mistake dismantling the legions. He admits that. I don't see the Emperor ever saying that, but Gilliman saying, "Hey, I made a mistake. I made an error." That's incredible coming from somebody who, what, or at least what the lore has said, the Primarchs were perfect. The Primarchs were infallible. They knew what they were
There,
doing.
it is a contradictory lore. I mean, the way that it's written has always been like in contradiction with itself, because the emperor is also presented as a wise man, but yet he does things out of ego. He
Mhm.
does things that are the exact opposite of what is wisdom. And it's the same with the Primarchs. They're very emotional. Some of them could be described as, well, like teenagers, emotionally immature children, and all of that. And Gilliman is one of the most that is leveled, although he's not liked but a lot of by a lot of people, because they think that he's like the Boy Scout of all the Primarchs and all of that. But I think that he is very good and balanced leader. He is the only one that has a whole system to rule. And now that he is, the emperor's regent, he is even more, burdened with this huge responsibility. So the point is that out of all the Primarchs, Gilliman really has proven, especially with those last three books, The Dark Imperium, that he is also open to criticizing the Emperor. He is not about to kill someone because they're speaking against the Emperor, if that criticism is warranted. He also proven that. So yeah, I really like Gilliman. He's a great guy. He's one of those examples where you have someone that really has qualities and virtues, and I will consider him a good guy for sure.
I would say, I'm hesitant to call Gilliman good. I'm saying he's probably the most pragmatic and reasonable of the Primarchs to return. I think he's dealing with the disappointment of what humanity has turned out to be, and even in this point, somebody of his caliber is up against a wall, and he'll have to make some very harsh and, dare I say it, some people would say, evil decisions. What worlds to abandon? When we looked at that, when that victory trailer came out, Gilliman's talking about victory, and you could tell in his voice, it's like there is no This is a lie. He might have to sacrifice one world that has 6 billion people to save another world that has 6 billion people on it, and he might have to abandon some military forces to save another group of legionnaires or troops for the Imperium. I think he has to do things that even he would say, if he had to step outside, "You are evil. What you did is wrong. These people needed you." And the Imperium can't be everywhere, and neither can Gilliman, which is why I'm kind of glad the Lion has returned. And I do hope that I haven't read the book yet, so please no spoilers. I do hope that they are able to work together, but even then, now you have 2 Primarchs. The Lion and Gilliman might have to, again, do the same thing. There might be 2 of them, but those 2 can't be around at every single location. They can't be around, and the Imperium, it is created because of the Emperor's own negligence of his inability to tell the Primarchs, "Hey, chaos exists," and also whatever his end goal is. I like to think that the Emperor isn't this evil entity trying to sell out humanity's soul. I like to think that he was trying to protect us and elevate us up, but the methods of him doing it can be defined as evil. Um, but again, whatever the emperor's end goal is, I hope that it has our benefit in mind and not just his benefit in mind. Because the emperor, depending on who is talking about their experience, you might get a wide range of stories. One person might say, "Oh, it was so great to see the emperor. How lovely it was to see him." On the other hand, you might get people say, "This man is a tyrant." Angron hates his father, for example. Whereas Gilliman, I guess you could say he did at one point love his father, but it's all in a matter of how you are perceiving it, and many people might perceive the actions of the Imperium as evil. When it comes down to gene stealers, for example, they could look human, but if the Imperium is given orders to shoot into a crowd because there's gene stealers there, they'll have to because you got to stop the contamination of gene stealers on another world so that the Tyranid hive mind doesn't get there. So,
Yeah,
uh, I,
I
I,
think we
I,
have to
yeah,
determine what is good and what is evil first, and then
yeah,
focus on the topic because otherwise we're just spreading ourselves very thin.
hmm
Okay,
precisely.
so
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
yes, so yeah, of course, everything that you said is amazingly valid. But because this topic is like a continuation of yesterday's topic about are there any good guys in the Imperium, I touched also upon the Tyranids as a very good example of something that to me is pure evil because they are basically like a parasitic organism that is attacking everything. They are destroying everything against the will of whoever they're destroying, so they're just a force for destruction and nothing will remain when they're done. So that's pure evil. They have no consideration for anything, they're just
Mm.
doing whatever they want to do. So
I
that's one
don't know
thing.
about that. I don't know if the if okay, on the one hand, yes, you are correct. They are destroying everything, and the Tyranids do have an intelligence, but until it's shown that the old ones or somebody else designed the Tyranids to be that way, they evolved through some process of evolution to be what they are. It's almost akin to saying like when you see a bunch of army ants or those blind ants that have those huge pincer jaws. It could be argued, well, what they're doing is evil too. They go through the fourth floor and kill all the bugs and little animals and all of that other stuff. But that's what they do, and they're there to make sure that their swarm, their hive survives. Same thing like with, let's say, killer bees or those giant Japanese killer hornets. If you see what those giant hornets do to honeybees that haven't evolved to deal with them, you could say, "Oh, well, those hornets are evil," but they're kind of they evolved that way. Now, we know that the hive mind is very old and aware, so perhaps we could say that the entity itself is evil. Um, but what of the rest of the Tyranids? Are they self-aware? Do they know? Because when the Tyranids are not connected to the hive mind, they have evolved into a feral state, and it's been argued that some of the death worlds that have some of the dangerous organisms might have been early scouts of the Tyranid hive mind, and they've evolved back to being animals. And I would say the entity that runs the hive mind, it would be evil. But the Tyranids, if they're ever free and they had a choice, finally, what would they do?
Okay, what would they do is a different thing, but let's say that the difference between nature and what animals do in our world and the difference between
True.
the Tyranids is that the Tyranids not the Tyranids, but the hive mind, whoever is controlling them, is aware of what it's doing. It's aware that
Mm,
it commits a total massacre to everyone. And maybe, just maybe, tyrants could exist like in a smaller circle if they were not really evil, if they just kill to survive. That will not be evil on itself, just keeping it to themselves in a small world, and that's it. And somehow managing to recreate more biomatter so they can eat and sustain themselves. That will not be evil. That will be like a good ecosystem to exist in. But when they
mm.
go out of their way to destroy the whole universe and eat everything consciously, knowingly, that is evil for me
Yes,
because it's conscious,
precisely.
you
Precisely.
know.
Yes, it's. I would say the hive mind, the consciousness of the hive mind is the evil entity. But if the Tyranids are ever free, maybe one day they can make their own choice. If that ever happens, which I doubt would happen, because then that would be similar to what we saw in StarCraft, where the Terrans, Protoss, and Zerg are now friends with each other, which is kind of stupid.
Yeah, that's really a different topic. So basically, I mean that's very interesting topic in general. You know, I recorded to do a separate video about the Tyranids, and if the Tyranids, I mean, this is the separate topic. If the Tyranids decide to eat everything, will that kill chaos actually? Because it will deprive chaos from everyone, from all
Mhm.
the sentient life that they're actually drawing from. I mean, they could sustain themselves maybe without all the sentient life, but they will not be as powerful. They will not have purpose. They will have to create their own sentient life to, to draw from maybe, or they would just be destroyed. So that's an interesting topic to think about. If the Tyranids
Mm.
actually, if evil can destroy other evil unintentionally just by consuming everything, yeah, that's something that it's in my to-do list. So the question is, what's the difference between the evil of the Imperium, I mean, whatever the evil is that the Imperium is committing, and the evil that Chaos is doing? So
Mm.
let's first start with once again defining what evil is and how chaos is working. So chaos in the Warhammer universe is basically described, I mean, is a methods of acting. They're also kind of like manipulative, parasitic type of entities that uh, do count on their manipulation to extend their influence, and from that to gain more power. And they also give something to their followers, but they also take everything that they are and they turn them into whatever they need to be, like the Primarchs turning into demon princes. They have new abilities, they're stronger, they're supported by chaos, but also they lost their original identity, and whatever they were, that's the thing, that this is in the past now, and they're whatever chaos needs them to be. So this is just classic evil, demon work, basically. And also, the chaos forces are described as acting as standard demons. If we compare it to other fictional writings, they're not acting exactly like gods, but they're acting more like demon creatures themselves, just on a higher level. That's how they're
Mm.
described. And of course, then we have, the topic about how they were created, that they were always there and they were never there, which it is another topic once again, because it kind of like it loses its meaning, because
Mhm.
they did had a point of creation. And even though if we can't actually measure that, they did had that. And usually the gods in other universes are described to be existing before humans or before sentient life, and they created that. But in this case, in the 40k, everything is in reverse, and it
Mhm.
seems like the sentient life created itself, and or the Catan, or before that the old ones, and then from us, from the Eldar and so on, all the chaos gods were created. So it's kind of like this. But anyway, that just for context. Point being that all the chaos gods exist just to consume, control, and obsess with everything that's the material world. They want more control over the material world. They have their own pockets in the warp and they want more control over that. Sometimes they work together, but just for their personal gain, is not for anything that we would consider a positive, interaction. Everything that they do is selfish, and whenever they help someone or they give some positive strengths, because some people say that Nurgle, for example, is
Mhm.
a god also of life. But in the same time, if you get contaminated with his stuff, or he is
Mhm.
corrupting you in any kind of a way, you will become his disciple. You will start to decay even though you're alive. You will become a walking pile of shit, sorry for the words, and a corpse, and so on. So he is taking everything from you that made you really alive and normal, and he's turning to into a smaller version of himself. And that is how all the chaos gods work, just in their own ways. So this argument, because this is also a very popular argument, that they give you something, but in reality, whatever they give you is at your own expense, and it is just a mean to achieve their goals. So, once again, even if it's positive, it is used to an evil end. It is used in your own expense. So, they have everything to gain, and they're gaining everything from you, but you are losing everything that you are in the same time. So, it doesn't matter what they give you because they are lying to you this whole time, anyways. So when we think about that, well, chaos is like a standard evil, basically, and the Imperium then is basically the sentient force that is trying to protect itself from chaos, and then the Emperor, of course, has evil and good means to deal with that. So the difference, to me at least, is like chaos is evil in all of the definitions that we know of. And the Imperium has both sides of the coin, so it can, work and protect itself against that evil. So all the shades of gray, the Imperium, pure evil, chaos. That's how I see it. What do you think?
The way I look at chaos is, to your point, yes, you're spot on with the four chaos gods, five chaos gods. What? There's four, only four, not five. The four chaos gods want to maintain things the way they are. They had numerous times in which they could have had absolute victory over the Imperium, but they're parasitic because they want to keep on enjoying their sick, perverse game, not only with mortals but against each other. If the Imperium falls, or if they finally have absolute control over the universe, then that's it. They lose their ability to even be relevant. They'll be consuming themselves. Chaos in its pure form, Malal, would want that to happen. And that's, again, why the Chaos Gods play their games with each other, not only to keep the status quo, but to make sure that the Imperium is still around. Now, the thing is, the reason why the gods are even relevant or evil as they are is because they are a reflection of humanity and nature and the warp. They are us. Korn represents violence and bloodshed and survival, but he also represents honor. As you mentioned, Nurgle represents life and death. Zinch, yes, he is a schemer, but within those schemes, what if there's a scheme to stop an assassination or murder or a terrorist act? And that's, again, it's Zinch is needed. And as for Slanesh, I guess somebody needs to find love. Just your definition of love might be very weird for Slanesh. Um, the gods are evil, but in a way for them to survive, because as any entity, they need to keep the souls coming in. And at least according to some Warhammer lore, again, audience, correct me if I'm wrong, but the same Chaos Gods that we see in 40K have been argued to be the same Chaos Gods we see in Warhammer Fantasy or in other multiverses, because the Chaos Gods live across the entire dimensions. The warp has been undefined. The warp is a pure hellscape. They are liars. If you are a servant to the Chaos Gods, you will never be free. They want to manipulate anyone to be part of their game. And the thing is, that's why they view the Emperor with such a threat, because he represents something that could stand against them and potentially kill them. And what would be a concern for that is that if the Emperor is successful, does that lead the rise for Malal? Because I know there's been a lot of talk of, will the fifth Chaos God ever play his role in the game? It's been hinted. Whether or not it finally comes true or not, that's up to Games Workshop and Warhammer 40K. But we have to remember that there there is no truth behind the Chaos Gods. They are what they are, and there's no peacetime in their mindset. If they ever win the game, that's it for them too. It's a suicide pact. They know that if they were to win, even eventually their great power, they will die, and they can't have that. Which is why I always find it funny that the Chaos Gods say that the Emperor swindled them. How did he swindle you? How did he trick not one, but all of the chaos gods. How did he outmaneuver them? And I have to go back to this one little theory that I have. I think the emperor did play that game with the chaos gods, but he might have found what was the original entity of the warp. And what I mean by this is the old ones had the warp, um, being, the warp used to be something different than what it is now. And I think the emperor, while when he went to Moloch to go into the warp to meet the chaos gods or to do their bidding, he might have technically swindled them by taking away what was once the original warp, or maybe he really did swindle them. But that's how the chaos gods are. I can't take anything they say with face value because while the emperor is a liar, the four gods are also liars. And look at their track record. Look at their followers. Now, occasionally, you might get a few chaos space marines waking up to the fact of, oh, what have I done? This is no better. This is worse than when I was with the emperor. But they don't really last long because they made that pact with the gods, and no matter what good action they do, they will not have a happy ending. They will die. They will either that become another avatar or plaything for the gods to use. They could, in theory. Mhm. Well, it
My sound was really low because I'm trying to put the mic down so there's no echo. So I have to repeat all that I said now. It's a good thing that I'm watching the chat.
oh my goodness. Oh, all right. Well, I hope you guys can hear us just fine.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
thank
you
you
are
all for tuning
perfect.
in.
Just I wasn't. Okay, so let me repeat that. So yeah, guys, it's going to be interesting if the chaos gods were not like a parasitic organism or an entity. That was what I wanted to say, and basically that they're not real gods. They're just acting like demons, and that is it. Because real gods they create, they could be a bit stern sometimes, maybe because it's necessary, but they create and evolve, and their creations is like the priority because the creation can eventually reach maybe their level and continue building their own world someday. Let's say that. Let's just say that. That's kind of like the opposite example of chaos. Whereas chaos, they just want to consume, destroy, and somehow, I mean, have their cake and eat it too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy, and they're maybe trying to figure out some way to be sustained without humanity, but I'm not really sure because there are actually a lot of plot holes when we go through the lore, and that's why these are, I mean, there are some new books, not only the continuation, which is the
Mhm.
40k stories now with the lion, but of course we have the new books of the Horus Heresy and the End and the Death, volume 1, did fill some holes in, but I think that the way that the lore is written sometimes really doesn't make sense, like with the contradiction of how the emperor is presented, sometimes good, sometimes not, sometimes he is like oh no, I don't want to be perceived as a god, but then everything that he did throughout his life build up to his image as a divine being. And he appeared as a divine being to others as well. He is glowing, he is this, he is that, and people were so impressed. So he deliberately did so many things, obviously, because otherwise he would be an idiot then,
Mhm.
if he didn't
Y-
do those things deliberately. So the lore is written in this kind of a way as you wonder, what is the actual truth here, really? So
It,
as it is with the chaos gods, there was this prophecy, yes, prophecy, of not the Eldar. Now it totally escapes me if it was the
Oh,
Eldar.
are you talking about the Cabal when they
Cabal,
went
the
to
Cabal, the
Alpharius?
Cabal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes. The Cabal, where they said to uh, the Omegon and the
yeah.
other Primarch that if Horus wins, then humanity will die. But then chaos will lose because humanity will die. And if the Emperor wins, chaos will win, which is very interesting when you think about it. So far they're winning. So that's true for now.
Well, okay, so see, again, anything that Chaos does say, especially even the Cabal, because again, the Cabal was made up of various alien factions. The Imperium was launching its crusade against numerous alien nations and different human factions that were ever going to bow down to humanity. I think anyone would try anything to try and subvert or trick any Space Marine or Primarch into questioning the Emperor. The Emperor's actions, I want to think that he somewhat cares about. Better yet, I'm gonna quote Gilliman. The Emperor does not love man, but he loves humanity. And that's from Dark Imperium. He does not love man, but he loves humanity. And maybe it's what we could be, at least according to the Emperor's vision. The thing is that the Emperor asks humanity's consent on the path that he wants to take us on. It's the same thing with even Duke Leto II from the Dune series. He wanted to put humanity on a golden path, and uh, his actions just as horrific and genocidal as the God Emperor of mankind. Is it to better ourselves? Yes. But the pathway to get there, good intentions, but evil. Evil. So many worlds sacrificed. And the Emperor himself, no, he could have helped Angron's colleagues, but I don't think there was anything he really could have done for him. On the one hand, it's evil what he did, but maybe it was a mercy because you have people with these butcher nails on your ship. You can't really fix it. They're going to die. So I'm not gonna care about this. I got to move on. I got this crusade to take care of. At the same time, if we look back at the emperor even before he became who he is, at least according to the lore in that universe, he was Saint George, and he's the one who took out the evil void dragon. And do that, well, we would not be here. So chaos as a parasitic evil. It is a representation of humanity that the emperor himself has helped contribute, and him trying to take them out. Once they are out, where does the emperor go from there? Does he then become a new fifth chaos god? Does he become a god of order? What kind of order will it be? What will be done to humanity? How deformed will we be? It is the actions of these higher entities that are playing this game with mortals, and I would say their game is selfish. Maybe the emperor has some, I guess, hopeful intentions, good intentions, but it can be said it's pretty evil because he has said that, look, I'm not a god, and now you are becoming a god. And at least according to Gilliman's conversation with the emperor and from his own memory, uh, I don't know if that's the same man I ever knew. Was this person ever real or authentic with me? And even in Dark Imperium, I think at the end of the first book, Gilliman even is thinking in his head about the status of his father, and he even shouts out loud, "He is not a god." And if you can make a Primarch really start questioning himself and all of the years of service, it's pretty selfish of the Emperor, and the Emperor in many ways is no better than the Chaos Gods. It just I don't know. Maybe this is just my opinion, but if I had the choice between the four Chaos Gods and the Emperor, I would hesitantly go to the Emperor, not of a future uncertain.
Yeah.
Whereas I would know what would happen to me if I was with Korn, Zinch, Nurgle, or God forbid, Slanesh. I know what's going to happen to me. It's not going to be pretty, and I'm not going to have a nice time in any of their four chaos realms. They are the forces of chaos, and they are not to be trusted. They are evil, and because of that, the sad truth is they're the representation of us.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I agree. I mean, I said many times that the Emperor is not that, I mean, that much better than Chaos, actually, because he is driven by ego. He is not parasitic, but he
What?
is
Isn't
something
he though?
else.
Isn't he though? The way he consumes human psychers and people. I
Oh,
mean, that's kind of
now,
yeah, yeah.
now he is by necessity, you know? Now he is, but he's not usually, he's not inherently.
Mm,
Whereas chaos is inherently parasitic. They are counting on everything and everyone to develop and exist and control. And now, yeah, now the emperor has to do this so he can be on the golden throne and keep chaos at bay. To some extent. You said a lot of interesting things actually, but let me remember exactly. You said a few things. I gotta write them down while you're speaking because they're awesome.
Uh, what,
Um,
uh, what exact? Hold on, we can ask the audience too. What stood out? Is there anything in particular?
yeah, and by the way, guys, tell us if there's any echo because now I didn't lower my mic so I can avoid such things. So if everything is good, I don't need to lower it while Kit is speaking. Okay, let me see. They're going to. All sounds good, says Ivy. Okay, that's enough for me. So you said something very interesting. You know that you would choose the emperor. Yeah, and also he can change. I mean, he can decide to use something else because he's not confined to his nature. He is still a human. He can still choose to be better than chaos. Whereas chaos, they cannot change. They are programmed to be this way. They're created to be this way. They can't just turn good, or just do good because yeah, because they decided to do something from themselves and not expect anything. Whereas the emperor could do something good. I mean, he had actually legitimate and genuine relationship with his sigillite, and we
Hmm.
can see that in that latest book of the Horus Heresy. It's amazing. I mean, there's like a big chunk of the book, or at least substantial chunk of the book, where you can see how the sigillite thought about the emperor, how he held him in like the highest possible pedestal, and that they really had like a man-to-man real love towards each other. And also the Primarchs respected him as well. Not everyone, which you can see from other books, but
Hmm.
how they were, it's amazing. And the emperor knew that the sigillite had to do this sacrifice to sit on the golden throne. The original idea was for Magnus, but he betrayed the emperor, so the emperor realized, well, I'm going to lose the sigillite now, and he was really saddened by this. So somewhere he has honor, he has integrity, he has dignity, he has love. It's just that he is probably doing this particular thing where when you are a leader, you have to impose on yourself focus, determination, and to just do what is necessary at all costs. That just overcomes all of the good qualities, because if you're not like this, you'll not be able to act as firmly as you need to. So there's something, yeah.
Yeah. Well, with the emperor, again, he, in many ways, he should have been more self-aware and maybe upfront with his sons.
Oh yes, I agree,
And,
yeah.
and maybe at one point he did view his sons as weapons, but there is that short. And again, Warhammer 40K lore can be retconned. Nothing is permanent. But the
Absolutely.
Horus Heresy books showed what was really going on after all this speculation. Because I never really thought that Sanguinius and Angron fought. but they did. And not only did Sanguinius to take care of Kabanda, but he also had to take care of Angron himself. Holy
Yeah,
cow! So
as a
there's
demon.
yeah, and there's a lot to address with that, and just how god tier Sanguinius is. But was the Emperor and Magnus? Not only was probably the Emperor sad that he had to lose, not Magnus, but the Sigillite, Malkador. That's the only person that he could probably really relate to, who was just similar to him, maybe in the same age as well. Like I can talk to you. It's like he is his. He's probably the closest person that probably understands who the Emperor is, and the Emperor same way with the Sigillite. They know each other. And in that, there's a short story that Wolf Lord Rowe read, in which the Emperor and the Sigillite are playing a game, and they're using the different Primarchs. And when it came revealed that Mortarion also betrayed the Emperor is shocked. And he says to himself, "They took my sons away from me. They took my sons away from me." And he he probably realized, at some point, like, I should have been more upfront. They are my sons. They are him. They are of his genetic material. And the Sigillite was there to correct him. And even when the Emperor antagonized the Sigillite by calling him a jester, the the Sigillite, Malkador, turned to him and said, "The jester reminds the emperor, the kings, the sultans, the queens, the princes, that they are still human and that he is the only one that can mock them." So, it's the emperor made mistakes, evil mistakes here and there, but I until lore wise, and again, I hope they don't do it. If they're trying to make him into this selfish entity, that would be pointless, because there can be an argument of all the good that the emperor has done, and things that he unintentionally did that are good. Like, for example, the creation of the Astartes. There's been many Astartes that have done great and honorable deeds that would put to shame a lot of the Primarchs or even the emperor himself. So when we talk about evil, we have to remember evil can only corrupt. Evil can only destroy. The emperor did create the Imperium, which is a very brutal dictatorship, but in it we do see the spirit or the glimmer of hope of humanity to someday get out of this mess. The four chaos gods can't do that. They can only corrupt. They are incapable of creation. If the warp ever restores itself, then maybe the chaos gods revert into something else, but they can't do anything that would contribute to any form of creation or life. They only can
Exactly.
destroy and corrupt. And the Imperium, I don't want to say it can be reformed, but maybe over time the Imperium does become something else, or it fractures and humanity gets to choose its own pathway, its own fate. Chaos can't do it, and trusting the chaos gods, trusting an entity calling itself the blood killer or destroyer of worlds. Yeah, that's somebody I would trust. Yeah, sure thing, buddy. Yeah, I trust you. You're my best pal in the whole wide world. I don't think so.
Yeah, he has your best interest at heart. But
But
no.
oh,
And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, also Korn put Rebute, not Rebute, sorry, Rogo Dorn in a separate dimension world to torture him for very long time, just so he
Mhm.
can turn.
Yeah,
They
and
have
Rogel,
patience.
yeah, Rogel. The fact that Rogel, I don't know. I wouldn't say that he was broken, but Rogel Dorn is someone very stoic, and even then, after everything that he's been through, loyal and faithful to the Emperor even till the very end. I think, again, it also says about the character of the Primarchs, because with Magnus, I do pity his fall to chaos, but that boy was tricked. He was played like a fiddle, and he willingly let Zinch play around with him. Same thing with Mortarion. How Mortarion just went to chaos willingly. Again, Mortarion's the one Primarch I despise the most, because his reasons for betraying the Emperor are just stupid.
Yeah, he's
Angron I can
disgusting.
understand. Yeah, yeah, he's very disgusting.
That's a separate thing.
Angron I can understand. Conrad Kurz had severe mental issues. Alferes or Maragon, that's one big question mark. And then you have Perturabo. I could somewhat understand. Maybe that's a stretch. And then, of course, you have Logar, who he's the reason why everything went to crap in the first place. An overzealous religious nutcase.
It's kind of the irony there. I mean, there's an irony.
Mhm. And then again too, the loyalist Primarchs. I mean, they're not perfect either, but their actions in trying to conquer worlds and maintain them and build them up, I can argue are a little bit more reasonable. But in war, you have to make horrific decisions, and some of them are not justifiable. Again, the Emperor launched a crusade. He even went against other human nations for his control. It could be argued that's evil, but then again, what's the Emperor's overall end goal? That's the big question mark. And I do hope that we do, not right now, but later on down the lore wise, we're able to get the full answer. And I hope that it's satisfactory to all. I'm not expecting the Emperor to be Superman or Goku or One Punch Man. I am expecting at least some kind of reasoning of why he made the decisions the way he did, because not everyone in the 40K universe is perfect. Even various factions. You have the Necrons. Are are all of them evil? I mean, Trazen the Infinite, he just likes to collect things and build a museum. He seems like a pretty cool guy to hang out with, but then again, you might be stuck in his museum forever or be frozen in time, whatever which one.
Well,
Same
if
thing
you're
with
interesting enough, though, if you're
hmm?
not, you can relax.
Yeah, of course, maybe. Maybe he'll give me a free voucher to check out his museum. I don't know.
Yeah, it reminds me of that guy from DC. There's a Superman story with a museum, which is very
Hmm?
similar in
Yeah,
the comic books.
it is interesting to discuss evil in 40K, and there are entities that are evil, and I think it's the people who are running the show. I think if there's one entity in particular that's trying to redeem himself, it would be the Silent King. I mean, he is the de facto leader of the Necrons, and it's because of his actions he doomed his people. And now his return, he's trying to undo what he did. He trusted the Catan. His people were forever destroyed, and he's probably the one high entity that's trying to reverse the damage that he has done. And I think that's a redeeming arc. It is, but then again, what is he going to do that? What actions will he take? Will they be just as evil? Will they be honorable? I don't know what they are, but at least from his perspective, I have to do good by my people because my people, I have failed them. I failed them once. I can't fail them again. That
That's
is the
great,
yeah.
actually. But I'm not that
Yeah.
familiar with that story arc. I mean, updated on the Necrons yet. But that's very fascinating to me. That's for
hmm
sure.
and then there's the Tau. People could say, oh well, the Tau are good guys. Are they though? Because they're following the Ethereals, and we don't know too much about the Ethereals, and even the way they conquer different worlds. It's very naive. And then their
Yeah.
ways of controlling their greater good. Okay, good luck. And now also the fact that because of the rift, uh, psychers are awakening in their own empire, especially on their human controlled worlds that they have. And many humans are viewing the greater good as an entity. Like there was one story in particular where the manifestation of the greater good helped out a Tau ship get out of the warp, and the Tau
Wow.
were like they were offended. Like, wait, there's what's going on? The greater good is now a god or a demigod. What is the greater good?
Yeah.
And not to mention, how are humans perceiving the greater good? Because the Tau are unable to have access into the warp. They're not the chaos gods don't recognize them. But the humans are interpreting the greater good as something else. What is the greater good? And how is that being interpreted? Because the Ethereals could say, that's not what it is. What have you humans done? What have you psychers done? The orcs, the orcs are brutal, but I wouldn't call them evil. They're just they're the kind of person. to get in a fight between two people just because they like to fight. There's just the frat boys enjoying a good time. They view war as fun. It's terrible to us, and people would perceive that as evil, but the orcs are just having fun.
Maybe they're unconscious evil. Still evil, but unconscious. Or
I
half
I don't
conscious.
I don't even know about that because even then the orcs when the beast sent that big battle moon to Earth, it sent down a representative that spoke high Goth. So a Goth that's not speaking like an orc, but speaking like a human. And he was able to speak it clearly as though he was very highly educated. And that was done by the beast's command. And so I think they have their interpretation of what role they want. It's just I wouldn't call the orcs evil. I would be but the Drukari, they're evil. Oh, all of those people are evil.
Well,
All of those
yes.
people. Yes. Oh no debate about it. There's no redeeming factors of the Drukari. There might be some. I know Yvrain used to be somewhat associated with them, and she's trying to help her people out. But the vast majority of the Dark Eldar, those people are evil. Those people are evil. There's no
Yes.
redeeming that dark city. There's not a good soul in Komora.
Yeah, that's for sure. Although, the topic of are orcs evil or is like a separate video. It's
True,
very
true.
interesting.
I I
Oh,
I, I Go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupt. Go ahead.
I remembered what I wanted to ask you from everything that you said. So I
Oh,
wanted to tell you before I forgot. Because
okay.
you said that the emperor um, didn't love man but loved humanity. So how is
Hmm?
this making any sense? What's the difference?
Uh, okay. The way I perceived that when Gilliman said that in the first book of Dark Imperium, because I think there was a priest from the ecclesiarchy that was assigned to be with Reboot Gilliman, and he asked Gilliman, "Does the Emperor love us?" And Gilliman lied to him, but he's thinking in his mind, the Emperor does not love man, but he loves humanity, and so what that means is he does not love his fellow man. He does not love the individual, the person, be it a son, a friend. No, the emperor only cares about himself, but the emperor loves humanity, and that is his idea of all of us on his level to be like him or to be subservient followers to his pathway, his line of thinking, and that alone. And that's what he loves about humanity. But the fellow man, the free thinker, the critical thinker, he does not love.
Hmm. I don't think that that really makes any logical sense. If you're a wise man, you will make a difference. You will give value to each one, each person, and not be like, oh no no, like when you're together, you're okay. When you're a sheep, but when you're individual, I don't like you. I don't care for you. I will not do anything for you. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. And he did appreciate, Malkador a ton, so he did see value in him. But if he doesn't see value in the every individual person to some extent, how he is respecting humanity at all? I just don't understand how can you have such a logic, especially for someone that has lived for thousands upon thousands of years. If he is that cynical, what is he even doing by ruling everyone?
What I have to think about in regards to the emperor is there's two variations to look at the emperor. There's the emperor before Moloch and the emperor after Moloch, and the emperor during the crusade, and then of course the emperor during the unification wars and during the crusade slash heresy. The emperor, at least as it stands, he is very old. He was with us during the prehistoric era of humanity when we were still hunters and hunter gatherer people, and so throughout his time, he probably made friends with people, but he outlived them all. It probably came to a point to where, I'll pretend to be a friend. I will pretend to love my fellow man, but I know that they're going to die. What how would any of us really, I guess, look at the world if we know that, hey, I'm not going to age. I'm going to live forever. But anyone that I do make contact with or become friends with or start a family with, I will outlive them. Like they mean no value whatsoever. And then there's the emperor going into Moloch. He comes out like right afterwards, and the people with him said that he changed even more so. And then the emperor during the unification wars, he could have done more to maybe talk to the warlords of Earth. He could have done more to maybe avoid the genocide. He could have done more to help out his Thunder Warriors, but he didn't do any of that. Same thing during the Crusade. He put on this mask of caring for his sons in many ways, or caring about his fellow humans, but it was all about his image. And what I took from Gilliman's interpretation at the end of the first book of Dark Imperium is that even Gilliman is struggling to remember how wise was his father. Yes, his father was wise, but he didn't he didn't mean any of the things that he was really saying to his sons or to Gilliman. And I think Gilliman being depressed as how he is and just seeing where humanity is at, I think it's him calling into question what was my father's vision. If he truly did love man, if he truly loved the individual, the person, why would he do this to us? And I think he used people as tools. I think he used people to benefit himself, and there might have been some people he respected, but they had to be on his level of kind of thinking. But then again, weren't the Primarchs on his level of thinking? And if that's not the case, the Emperor comes off extremely selfish, and his vision is selfish. If you look at the Unification Wars, selfish. The Great Crusade, selfish. He destroyed advanced human civilizations because they would not bow to him or to his perspective. He loves man. I mean, he loves humanity, but he does not love man. He does not love that free thinker, and he could be very smart, but he wants to be the smartest person in the room. A huge ego.
Huge ego. To me, he is a contradiction, contradicting himself
Mhm.
on some levels. I mean, that is either because the writers cannot imagine for someone who is living that long that he will become anything but cynical and he will degrade instead of, go forward in his wisdom and development. Because usually humans that we have seen in real life, if they have enough of experience, they they have the ability to learn from that experience. They only become wiser and more knowing and see things from above figuratively. They don't degrade and they don't become more cynical. In order for someone to become more cynical, they have to be, deprived of real, genuine human interaction. They have to be deprived of abilities to appreciate each and everything that exists in qualities in other people, to see things from other people's viewpoints. So the
Mhm.
emperor basically is like, I'm just going to be my ego now, and that's all that matters. And he's going to choose not to be, developing his persona like for real. This is really crazy to me. And on your question, how would you do things? How would you see things when you know that you're going to live forever, but everyone else will die? Well, I would say that if you're a wise person, you will know that each and every generation that you're interacting with, they have their role to play, for the future generations. So if you're now here in this moment, you have to enjoy the moment. You have to see the quality of this moment and see how this moment and whatever is in it is pushing the future, towards. And then when you get to more future moment, you see the consequences of the previous moment, and you see how this now is a result of what happened before. And now
Mm.
we're going further, and all of that is due to the people that are here now and in the future. So all of those people, individuals, they bring their own talents, they bring their own knowledge, and they use their own abilities to move things forward. So if I was the emperor, I would say, I appreciate you now in the future. Yes, you're going to live and die, but you are going to leave your footprint here, and that is going to echo in the future. And that is how it
Mm.
is and always will be. So if you're really wise, that is what you will see. You will not be not become more cynical and be the opposite of what is productive and good.
I
So
see your I see your point with how a wise person should act if they had that power. If I had that kind of power, I don't know how I would act, but seeing as how the emperor has lived forever, an argument could be made. Yes, all of our individual decisions. There will never be another person like you, or there will be another person like me, or anyone else in the live stream audience. But history has shown that in order to be remembered in history, that belongs to a select few of people, like Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, or any of the other great kings or emperors or people of, who are written down in history books. The vast majority of people, unfortunately, will be forgotten. And maybe that's how the emperor viewed things, because he did. Again, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And the emperor, probably in his mindset, seeing human history play out from prehistoric times all the way up to the 40K era, history repeating itself over and over again, individuals living and dying. And we could say it's cynical. It's probably maybe how he viewed things, and maybe that's yes, he gathered intelligence. He was able to be smart and survive and adapt, and yes, even sometimes take on the role of a prophet or a leader or a king, to help out humanity during certain points of our history. But at the end of the day, uh, nothing truly did change. And when the emperor himself was finally revealed himself to humanity, he was no better than all the great dictators and tyrants of the past. And yes, he, again, can be argued, did good things, but also did evil things. And he played the same role of all the people he would observe from the shadows, or even the very roles that he played. Is he a wise man? Theoretically, yes, but through that wisdom, the emperor just showed himself to be more human like the rest of us, but he did not value, I think, the individuals that did not leave a footnote in history, and he treated everyone like a pawn, and only a select few could be a queen or a bishop or a rook or a knight. And that's the emperor, unfortunately.
yeah,
And
basically.
yeah, that's, and again, he knew how to act. Everyone has a different interaction with the emperor. Some would say, "Oh, really great and humbling." Others would be like, "This man's a tyrant." It all depends on how you perceived it and how you're perceiving the emperor.
So basically, this all speaks that the emperor never really matured.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, that is everything points to that direction. And he never actually knew how to do things in a more genuine way. Because to do things in a more genuine way, you gotta do things harder. There's more diplomacy involved, and it's gonna be a slower process. That's what's going to be like. Then there's the other thing that you mentioned. Yes, of course, there's some particular individuals in history, they will be remembered. Not, I mean, the other people, the other billions of people, they will not be remembered. But here's the thing, without the other billions of people, those few individuals will not even be themselves. They will not exist. They are already special by some kind of a way and different from, more regular people. But the regular people work in so many ways so that this particular individual to be able to be build up higher their image, their status, their whatever they're going to achieve in life, uh, still that person will need other people's support, and they will
Mhm.
have to do certain decisions in their life, for work, for family, and whatever that will influence this particular persona. Let's say Julius Caesar, whoever it is, a president, doesn't matter, even a singer, songwriter, whoever it is, an actor, they all depend on everyone else. So I think that as someone, I mean, some people do not deserve respect. People that are criminals and just, unpolite, cynical people that like to attack others. All of
Mhm.
those people that really don't have a lot of virtues, value system, whatever. We all know those people. So if you're a wise person, you will choose to not pay attention to such people. You'll not give your energy if they don't deserve that. You'll give your energy to someone that actually deserve it. You're going to be a leveled and really wise person, basically.
Mm.
So if he decided to do things more genuinely, in a better way, he would, pay attention to the right people only, give his, more of his attention to his primarchs, some of his Astartes, let's say. He will acknowledge some of their successes a bit more and try to communicate with them about certain issues when that is due. And thus, he will be a lot better, not only a leader, but just in general, a person, a being, and a lot better example for absolutely everyone. So yeah, I just think that if he really knew how to, if he really knew how to do things in a balanced and good-natured way, and not just be like a regular warlord, he would make a ton of difference in the world, and we will not have this situation with the golden throne that we have today, because it's just the consequence of a ton of missing conversations with his sons, trying to trick chaos, cheat his way out of stuff, gain power basically in a lot of different ways. And only when he was really genuine, well, it's great, with Malkador and maybe sometimes with his sons, but it was just not enough. It was
Mhm.
just not enough. He needed some kind of a better, maybe, guidance to work on his maturity levels so he can actually be, not someone that we would describe as just a guy that had more power than anyone else. Malkador even told him that he should become the emperor. So it doesn't seem like the emperor, before he was the emperor, he was really orientated exactly about what he should do, because he still needed Malkador to like point him in that direction. So yeah, he's not well rounded. Yeah, and that is really needed if you want to be a good leader.
Another thing too, though, again, many people, a lot of Warhammer content creators have brought this up, and I think even you brought this up too. The Emperor was in this super fast rush to get the Crusade done so he could focus on the Golden Throne, and I do have to wonder again, did the Emperor truly foresee his defeat? Because then again, if he knew that he was going to be on the golden throne and he wasn't going to be ready to face off against chaos gods and willingly feed off human souls, I mean that's evil. And then also, well, what else was happening? Did you foresee the Tyranids, the Necrons, the Tau, or the Orcs becoming a larger threat? He should have told people. And if that's the case, I mean, what the Emperor had to be on such a this super fast rush to finish up the crusade, there was no need to inform others of what the plan was. A good leader needs to tell people. A good leader needs to inform people. It's like that. What was the name of that pink-haired lady from the Last Jedi who was a terrible admiral?
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
pink hair lady?
Yeah. Yeah. From the Last Jedi. She refused to tell her troops what was going on, and she led them all to get massacred anyways, as her plan was just got off. I think what Holdo? Yeah, Admiral Holdo. Right. She looked like she needed to be teaching at college at somewhere else, not being an admiral the way she was dressed. But she refused to tell people what her plan was, and it was god awful. And the emperor again was rushing through crusade, and if he truly didn't know what was going to happen, that could be argued as evil. Not I think about it. Yeah, a good leader needs to inform people what's happening, what your plan is, and some people could say like, well, wait a minute, if you know this is going to happen, why don't you stop it? Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that opens
basically,
up
that's
yeah, that's a whole other can of worms right there.
yeah, everything is a can of worms when it comes to 40k.
Yes,
But
exactly.
basically, it's turning out that the emperor is either, number one, a very egotistical, consumed with himself idiot, that because of his ego he's allowing all of those mistakes to happen, and he doesn't know what exactly he's doing actually. He just thinks that he does, or he is just a guy that is so smart that everything is according to his plan, and eventually he is going to emerge victorious. But that also would mean that he is consciously evil where he needs to be.
Mm. Well, then again, we could always hope. We could always hope that maybe somehow everything was all according to plan, and the Emperor has our best interests in heart.
I'm not very naive on that. I mean, I'm always open, literally, I'm always open to whatever the lore brings. So I'm not going to be this type of person that is going to just say, no, it's this or that. I'm going to say maybe it looks so far from everything that we know that the Emperor is either this or that. But we'll see, there's writing, different writers, they can put their own little spin on it. And to refer to one interview that I watched like a year ago, I think of Dan Ambent.
Mhm.
He said that, when they're writing everything, they're always figuring out what is beyond what they're actually written down. For example, they already have the concept for other stuff that we don't see, but based on those things that we don't see, they're writing their story. So they always have in mind, what exactly is the Golden Throne, where is the Emperor now, and what is he doing. But they are not saying that they're writing stuff down, but to logically connect them in the future, they already figured all of those stuff out. And yeah, what was my thoughts about that? Well, he mentioned also that the chaos gods were basically like higher level demons, and when he said that, I was like, yay, because I said it before, before I ever seen that interview, before it was published. So I was like, yes, I figured this out, yeah. But yeah, that is because the writers, they also read a lot of other literature to write their stories. You cannot be a writer and not having a rich, library in your head from other literature, from other genres, even
Mhm.
from even uh, esoterical knowledge and science, because you do have to form your own concepts and ideas, change them somehow, and put them on the pages, create your own world and everything. And that is why I find 40K very fascinating, because it is like an opposite of the world that we know. I mean, our real world, and the warp is the opposite of what we imagine as heaven. It's basically, yeah, it's really the opposites. So yeah,
I
there's a lot of interesting things there.
I have, when we look at the writers of 40K, what I can really respect about the current crop of writers is that they acknowledge and have looked at the lore in the past. And that's the thing, this is probably a little bit off subject because it's not about good and evil, but it's about respecting the lore and relating back to good and evil. They're able to not say, well, this group is just the good guys, these guys are the bad guys, because that's lazy writing. They're able to look at previous writings, examples of heroism and selfishness and evil, and continue on with it in the current era of Warhammer 40K, and really keep us, the consumer, the people, happy. Because look, 40K, if you want hope, you go to Star Trek or Star Wars. At least you know where they were back then. Again, I don't want to go off topic and say that the current group of writers for Star Wars and Star Trek have gone drastically down the crapper. But it's about respecting what the current environment is, especially with 40K, because here we are having a conversation of who is good and evil in 40K. And I don't even think we can truly come down to a full conclusion. I mean, yes, the Chaos Gods are pure evil. We know that. That Tyranid hive mind, evil. Uh, but Chaos Gods are a representation of living beings. They came into existence because of all the chaos that happened with the war in heaven and afterwards. Tyranid hive mind, remove it. What happens if you give the Tyranids a choice? Some might be good, some might be evil. I mean, again, that's a big, big question mark. It would be stupid to get rid of the Tyranid hive mind, though, but again, it's questions in which we, as fans, consumers of this intellectual property, like, and that's what good writers should do: make you question, call things out, and have a wonderful, lively conversation like we're having here right now. So there you go.
Yes, although, to finish this out, I would like to try real quick to put some kind of a definitive answer to the stream, to the topic. So, the stream is called "What is the difference between chaos and the evil of the Imperium?" So that's the question. So I would say that the difference between the two is that chaos is inherently, by nature, evil, and the Imperium, it is not. It still sustains and creates, the potential for building life, developing the species, everything about it. It has a lot of processes that are connected to creation and not destruction. There's also destruction, but it is a world that has a lot of shades of gray. It has good, it has bad, and it has some necessary evils that could lead to good. So it's just very nuanced. That's the difference. Chaos is not nuanced because everything that they do have, when it's positive, it's still used to hurt, do harm in any kind of a way, and destroy, and still get to some kind of a very bad end for the recipient. So that is the difference. I would say this is the way to answer the question. What's the difference?
My answer, yes, chaos is 100% evil, but it came into existence because of entities and factors before humanity, and it came into existence even with us being around. But they are evil. The Imperium will not say that it could be reformed, but the humans living in it can be better. Humanity always has the potential to improve itself and be better. So I would say there is potential for good and creation to be made within the Imperium with the return of Gilliman and the Lion. Perhaps hope lives again, but hope is the first pass of disappointment. Um, so like with humans, again, it depends on the person and the individual, but there is maybe a small glimmer of hope
Yeah,
for
there's
the
still love
Imperium.
there.
There
Between
is.
humans. I always say when I go through the books, in each book, there's a lot of filler in the books, but sometimes there's some compelling human characters that I do remember, and they do show love and respect, and they help each other. So, yeah, that is one of the beautiful things about humanity and what we still have, what we still possess, and where the heck is the good God of chaos? Because if humanity has so much
I
evil in itself to create the gods, then where the heck is the opposite and why we didn't destroy each other all
well,
of this
that's
time?
so here again. I'm going to bring up my two theories, and I know there's probably people in the Warhammer 40K community that will most likely correct me on this, but these are my two theories. Number one, I think that's how the Emperor swindled chaos. I think he found the good gods or the good what remained of the warp originally, and that's how he is the way he is now. So when he walked out of the warp, walked out of that portal in Moloch, um, he walked in, and then a few seconds later he walked out. But at least according to his story, he was in there for like years, centuries. I think that's what he found. And then number two, you know, all this talk about war and chaos and madness and humanity going to war. I think if there's one thing to take away from Warhammer 40K, it's that they do add in some logistics and science into how humanity colonized the rest of the world. And it's been talked about that if we have an end of the world where the nukes start launching and that's the end of human civilization, we will never get to this point again because all the resources used to make the technology that we love, from our cell phones to the computers that we're using right here, it can't be recreated because everything's been destroyed and the earth has been dug up of all those raw materials. I like to think that the emperor would not allow humanity to nuke itself into oblivion or start a World War III, and that could be argued as something like the one good thing the emperor did. Because if you look at the Star Trek universe in 1999, according to Gene Roddenberry, we nuked ourselves, and the only reason why the Federation even became what it is because we had outside help from the Vulcans. Warhammer 40K, we never had that problem. It's until it states that hey, there was World War III in this timeline. I don't think we did. I don't think the Emperor would allow that.
Mm-hmm. That's very
Again,
interesting.
just a theory. I'm probably wrong, but it would be interesting to see that the Emperor would still have control over us. Like, no, don't nuke each other. Just have pointless talks and conversations and bore each other to death. That's it.
Well, if he's controlling all the forces and, well, he's a monopoly on the world, nobody can nuke nobody. It
Yeah,
is
true.
all in his in his hands in the first place. But you put a very interesting question for the future. We have to put a pin in that. Did the emperor find good force when he was, in that place talking with chaos? And yeah, does that mean that all of his force actually and power comes from somewhere, some kind of a force that's like it is the light, it is the quote unquote good, or the opposite? It's not maybe inherently good, but it is the opposite force to chaos. When it's in relation to chaos, it's just an opposite. So yeah, is there a power source, to the emperor that will allow him to oppose chaos in the future and in general?
Yeah,
That's
true.
for a future topic.
I would love to have that conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, so guys, that's gonna be it for this. I hope that you enjoyed. We reached amazing, awesome revelations here. I'm just so happy that we had such an intellectual talk. 40K intellectuals. I
Hmm.
like the sound of that. So go, the link is down below, the first link into the description of Chicago Reacts. And of course, Kit has amazing crew behind the channel. It's not only him, so you can enjoy a lot of content there. And as always, guys, if you'd like to support me, you know where. OnlyFans, where I do all of my meaningful sex educational content, fitness, health, nutrition, relationship advice, and more. And till next time, guys, with me and Kit. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed. Just let us know what you think in the comments, guys. Love ya. Bye bye.